It's Platt, and today we try a classic from the Northwest. That's next to Platt's Beer of the Week. So the particular beer we have today is Rainier beer, one of the classic old school brands. You guys know I dork out on these old school beers. It was cool to find this one. A little background into Rainier. Going all the way back to 1863, a gentleman named A.B. Rabson opens Washington Brewing. It was the first commercial brewery in Seattle. Little context, 1863, we're in the Civil War. Westward expansion hadn't started. Seattle's pretty much just a logging and fishing center. Of course, a lot of thirsty men working hard. They wanted cold beer, and Rabson was there for them. 1872, they changed the name to Seattle Brewing. Apparently, marketing guys were already mucking stuff up back then. Move ahead to 1878, and Rabson introduces Rainier beer, the brand, to the market. More little context here. This is 11 years before Washington is even a state. Now, where does this come in? The beer itself was named after Mount Rainier outside of town. However, for years, while Rabson owned it, and even people that owned it afterwards, they were kind of accused that no, the mountain was named after the beer, that they had some kind of political connection. And again, Washington wasn't a state yet, so there wasn't a fully fleshed out department of parks or anything like that, but there was always rumors that somehow Rainier beer got the mountain named Rainier. That would be a marketing coup if it really was true. Move ahead to 1888 or 1883, and across town, a gentleman named Andrew Henrich opens Bayview Brewing. We have competition now in the Seattle market. Move ahead 5 more years to 1888, and Rabson decides he's had enough fun, and he sells the brewery and the brand to Henrich. And Henrich, over the next few years, kind of synergizes, moves equipment around, this, that, and the other, gets all the corporate, paperwork done. And by 1893, has picked up a couple more breweries, and he names the entire company now Seattle Brewing and Malting. And the malting comes in handy because in 1916, the state of Washington enters Prohibition early. Something we'll talk about in a little bit, but some states were already in Prohibition before we went to nationwide Prohibition in 1920. This forced them to move the production of Rainier down to California for that 4-year gap until nationwide Prohibition occurred. Now, luckily for them, though, they had the malting plant. They were already crushing and malting barley. And even during Prohibition, you still needed the malt extract, malt powder that was made. People were using it in cooking and candy making. So at least there was some revenue coming in. So the company stayed alive. Now, toward the end of Prohibition in 1933, right before it got repealed, a couple of Canadian brewers, Fritz and Emil Sick, came in to purchase the brewery. Apparently, they'd made enough money during Prohibition with all the Canadian booze coming down. They wanted to get on this side of the border for when it opened back up. And they ended up owning the brewery for the next 40-something years. They changed the name 2 or 3 times. I think it was called Sick Brewing for a little bit. One of the fun things they did, though, was in the 50s, they introduced their Jubilee cans. These are special cans with special labels for the holiday, Christmas kind of theme, and it become quite a collectible thing. So if you're garage, sailing on a Saturday in the Northwest, keep an eye out for a can because it could be worth something there. In the 1970s, they decided to shift the marketing focus to TV commercials back when beer ads were fun, before people went nuts on the beer ads. They had a series commercial where they had frogs that would croak Rainier beer, similar to 20-something years before the Budweiser frogs did the Budweiser thing. They also hired acting great Mickey Rooney, yes, that Mickey Rooney, to appear as a Canadian Mountie in some of their commercials. Probably blew out the ad budget, but to get Mickey Rooney, why not? Now, like a lot of things, though, the good times do come to an end. In 1977, they sold the company to G. Heilman and Company. Now, for those of you that are old school beer brand dorks like me, know that G. Heilman has owned a lot of these brands at some point in time. Blatt's, Schaefer's, Pabst, I can go on and on. And they end up purchasing Rainier, and for a while they spun it off, and it in a group with Olympia, another classic old school brand from the Northwest. Eventually, though, Rainier landed where it is today, and that's under the Pabst corporate umbrella. You know, Pabst kind of became the new G. Heilman in a way and owns some of these brands, what have you. However, Pabst does not produce this beer. This is a contract brew with Miller Coors. This beer, the Taste of the Northwest, is actually produced in Golden, Colorado. I'm going to presume at the Coors main facility there in Golden. Now, Rainier does not have any other beer products, but they do have one other product, and it is Rainier Mountain Fresh Gin. Yes, they've gotten in the spirits business. Like a couple others, I'm pretty sure Pabst has a spirit. I think Natural Light does. Two or three of these brands have expanded out that way. Interesting enough, the gin's made in Seattle, but the beer's made in Colorado. Well, before we try this particular beer, though, let's check out stats. So before we try our Rainier beer, I thought we'd talk about, I noted earlier that Washington went to Prohibition a few years early. Several states did that, and oddly enough, after Prohibition was repealed in 1933, the Volstead Act that got repealed, states were also allowed to continue Prohibition on their own, and several took advantage of that. First, Vermont. Vermont, 1853, started its own prohibition and did not come out till 1902. So there was an 18-year gap where people could drink in Vermont. But again, 1853, good gracious. Iowa tried the experiment for a little bit from 1882 to 1894. They were under prohibition, but again, allowed it to come back. Now, like I said, a few states kept it going afterwards. Tennessee, the home of Jack Daniels, went into Prohibition all the way back in 1903, did not come out till 1939, 6 years after the rest of America could. Again, home of Jack Daniels. Oklahoma went into Prohibition in 1907, did not come out till 1959, the year before Kennedy was elected. We had televisions. And the winner of the Silly Olympics, though, was Mississippi. They went in Prohibition in 1908. It did not come out till 1966, 3 years before we walked on the moon. Mississippi, we're flying in space, but Mississippi wasn't sure if you could have a beer. Ugh. Now, I do want to hand out 2 gold stars to a couple of states. Rhode Island and Connecticut, they did not ratify it. Every other state ratified Prohibition. Those are the only 2 states that did. Now, they still had to live underneath it. They didn't get to sell, but at least they didn't sign up for the buffoonery. So, but anyway, I find that absolutely fascinating. And again, today there's still prohibitions on some things that just mind-boggling. Well, enough about that. Let's drink some old school Rainier beer. Oh, that just sounds good. All right, got about a finger of really white head, plenty of bubbles, nice clear beer, kind of a lighter straw, a little bit golden. Not a bad color. Let's, oh, it's a pretty simple nose. Yeah, it's a real simple nose. No hops and just very faint malt. Let's give her a try. You know what? That ain't bad. That has something more than a traditional, and it's not light. So, it does kind of remind me of the first time I had beer. You know, I was kind of a Bud, Miller High Life, kind of the slightly fuller bodied American lager. And this kind of embodies that. It's still a very easy, light bodied beer, however, but it does have something. There is some body to it. There is some malt to it, some aftertaste. Not to disparage anybody, but like a Michelob Ultra is water. If you just want alcoholic water, you know, Mick Ultra, now everybody's got their own version of that beer. This has a little substance. I could see if I was a logger back in 1888 and we'd had a tough day at the office, Well, we're going to knock down for these. That is not too bad. Next time I go camping, we might be taking a 12er to the campsite with me. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please subscribe down below. Also, please like the video because it lets YouTube know we're putting out good content. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or beers that you'd like me to try, please leave them in the comment section, or you can always contact me on the Twitter page. Till next time, bottoms up.